Embarrassment is one of those emotions that seems to strike at the worst possible moments, leaving us feeling exposed and vulnerable. Whether it's an awkward comment, a social faux pas, or a clumsy mistake, these moments can stick with us far longer than we'd like, often replaying in our minds for days, months, or even years. But what if, instead of trying to bury these moments, we could learn to embrace them? What if we could turn embarrassment into an opportunity for growth and resilience? The ancient Stoics believed that we have far more control over our emotional responses than we often realize. They taught that while we may not always be able to control external events, we can control how we interpret and react to them. With this mindset, embarrassing moments can be reframed as opportunities to build character and strengthen our resolve. In today's video, we'll explore how Stoicism can help us change our relationship with embarrassment, turning those cringe-worthy moments into stepping stones for a more authentic and resilient self. If you find this content helpful, consider sharing it with a friend who struggles with embarrassment or anxiety over how others perceive them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more insights on Stoicism and personal growth. Chapter 1: Why We Fear Embarrassment. At its core, embarrassment is a fear-based emotion. It stems from our deep-seated concern over how we're perceived by others. We feel exposed, vulnerable, and fearful of judgment, ridicule, or rejection. The Stoics understood this dynamic well, recognizing that much of our emotional distress comes not from the events themselves, but from our interpretation of those events, specifically the fear of how others will react. From a Stoic perspective, this fear of embarrassment often results from prioritizing the wrong things. We place too much value on external validation and societal approval, rather than on living in accordance with our own principles. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Embarrassment arises when we allow ourselves to be ruled by the opinions of others, rather than by our own internal compass. Consider this: the feeling of embarrassment is largely based on a fear of how others will judge you. But as the Stoics teach, other people's judgments are beyond your control. What matters is how you judge yourself. The Stoic ideal is to live in harmony with your own values and virtues, rather than being swayed by external praise or criticism. The Stoics encourage us to focus on what we can control: our own actions, thoughts, and reactions. By shifting our focus inward, we can reduce the power that external events, including embarrassing moments, have over us. This mindset is liberating because it frees us from the need to constantly seek approval or validation from others. Instead, we become the authors of our own self-worth, grounded in the knowledge that we are acting in alignment with our values. Furthermore, many of the social norms and expectations that lead to embarrassment are arbitrary and culturally constructed. What one culture considers embarrassing may be perfectly acceptable in another. The Stoics teach us to question these societal standards. Are they truly worth the emotional energy we invest in them? Or are they simply constructs that we've been conditioned to accept without question? By challenging these assumptions, we can begin to see embarrassment for what it truly is: a fleeting, often irrational reaction to societal norms that have little bearing on our true character. This realization is the first step toward reclaiming our emotional freedom. Chapter 2: Reclaiming Your Power with Stoic Emotional Control. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external events, we have complete control over how we respond to them emotionally. This is a core tenet of Stoic philosophy, and it holds particular relevance when it comes to dealing with embarrassment. Embarrassment, after all, is an emotional response, and like all emotions, it can be managed and controlled with the right mindset. Epictetus famously said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This means that while you may not be able to prevent embarrassing situations from occurring, you do have the power to control how you react to them. Instead of allowing embarrassment to spiral into shame, self-criticism, or anxiety, you can choose to respond with composure, self-compassion, and even humor. One way to reclaim control over your emotional responses is to practice mindfulness, a skill that was central to Stoic practice. When you find yourself in an embarrassing situation, take a moment to observe your emotions without judgment. Instead of immediately reacting to the discomfort, pause and ask yourself, is this situation really as bad as it seems? Often, you'll find that the intensity of your emotional reaction is disproportionate to the event itself. Stoicism teaches us that emotions like embarrassment are natural but should not dictate our behavior. The key is to create a gap between stimulus and response. By observing your emotions rather than being swept away by them, you regain your sense of agency. You become an active participant in your emotional life, rather than a passive recipient of whatever feelings arise in the moment. This practice of emotional control isn't about suppressing or denying your emotions. The Stoics never advocated for emotional repression. Instead, they encouraged rational engagement with our emotions, acknowledging them, understanding them, and then choosing how to respond to them in a way that aligns with our values. Over time, this practice can help you develop greater resilience, making you less susceptible to the sting of embarrassment. For example, imagine a scenario in which you accidentally spill your drink at a social event. The initial reaction might be to feel embarrassed, flustered, or ashamed. But by taking a moment to pause, you can shift your perspective. Is this spill really worth feeling embarrassed about? Will anyone remember it a week from now? Probably not. By putting the event into perspective, you can diffuse the intensity of the embarrassment and respond with calm and grace. This shift in mindset, choosing how to interpret and react to situations, gives you immense power. You no longer have to be at the mercy of your emotions. Instead, you can navigate potentially embarrassing moments with confidence, knowing that you are in control of your inner world. Chapter 3: The Art of Authenticity, Living by Your Own Standards. One of the primary sources of embarrassment is the dissonance between who we truly are and who we think we should be according to societal expectations. We often feel embarrassed when we fall short of these external standards, but the Stoics challenge us to live according to our own internal principles rather than the shifting norms of society. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, believed that living a life of integrity meant aligning your actions with your values, regardless of what others might think. In his view, the approval or disapproval of others should have no bearing on your sense of self-worth. What matters is whether you are living in accordance with reason and virtue. Ask yourself, whose standards am I living by? Are you constantly trying to meet the expectations of others, or are you guided by your own principles? The Stoic path encourages you to let go of the need for external validation and to focus instead on living authentically, true to your own values. When you live authentically, embarrassment loses its grip, because you no longer feel the need to conform to societal expectations that don't resonate with you. You become free to express yourself without fear of judgment, because your sense of worth is no longer tied to the opinions of others. This doesn't mean that you disregard the feelings or perspectives of those around you. Stoicism teaches compassion and consideration for others, but it does mean that you prioritize your own principles over the fleeting opinions of others. You live in alignment with what is true and meaningful for you, not what society dictates. Living authentically also means embracing your imperfections. The Stoics believed that no one is perfect, and that striving for perfection is not only unrealistic but counterproductive. Instead, they emphasize the importance of continuous growth and self-improvement. You are a work in progress, and each mistake or embarrassing moment is an opportunity to learn and grow. By embracing your imperfections and living in accordance with your own values, you can approach life with a greater sense of freedom and confidence. Embarrassing moments no longer have the power to undermine your self-worth, because you are grounded in something much deeper: your commitment to living authentically. Chapter 4: The Power of Self-Forgiveness. In moments of embarrassment, it's easy to become our own harshest critic. We replay the situation in our minds, magnifying our perceived failures and berating ourselves for not living up to our own or others' expectations. But the Stoics remind us that mistakes are a natural part of the human experience, and self-forgiveness is an essential component of personal growth. The Stoics believe that holding on to guilt or shame serves no productive purpose. Instead of wallowing in regret, they encouraged rational reflection and self-compassion. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Don't wish to seem knowledgeable." This emphasizes the value of learning from our mistakes rather than being consumed by them. Self-forgiveness is about accepting that you are imperfect and that mistakes are inevitable. It's about recognizing that embarrassing moments are not a reflection of your worth, but opportunities for growth. By forgiving yourself, you release the emotional weight of embarrassment and create space for learning and improvement. When you find yourself reliving an embarrassing moment, practice self-compassion. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Instead of dwelling on the mistake, focus on how you can grow from it. This shift in perspective transforms embarrassment from a source of shame into a stopping stone towards self-improvement. The Stoic approach to self-forgiveness also involves humility. By accepting that you are not infallible, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation of perfection. This humility allows you to embrace your humanity, imperfections and all, and to approach life with greater openness and curiosity. Through the practice of self-forgiveness, you build emotional resilience. You become less affected by the inevitable ups and downs of life because you have developed the ability to move on from mistakes with grace and wisdom. Embarrassment, once a source of anxiety, becomes a fleeting emotion that no longer holds power over you. Chapter 5. Turning embarrassment into strength. The Stoic practice of premeditation. The Stoics practiced a powerful technique known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. This practice involves mentally preparing for potential challenges, setbacks, or embarrassing moments before they happen. By doing so, the Stoic builds emotional resilience and is better equipped to handle difficult situations when they arise. When it comes to dealing with embarrassment, premeditatio malorum can be an invaluable tool. By anticipating potentially embarrassing situations and visualizing how you will respond to them, you can reduce the emotional impact of those moments when they occur. Instead of being caught off guard, you face the situation with calm and composure because you've already prepared for it. For example, if you're worried about making a mistake during a public presentation, take time beforehand to imagine the worst-case scenario. Picture yourself fumbling over your words or forgetting your notes. Then visualize how you would handle the situation with grace and poise. By rehearsing your response in advance, you are training your mind to remain calm and rational, even in the face of discomfort. This practice isn't about dwelling on negative outcomes or becoming overly cautious. Instead, it's about building mental resilience. By acknowledging that embarrassing moments are a natural part of life and preparing for them, you reduce their power to cause emotional distress. You become more adaptable, more confident, and more capable of navigating life's challenges with equanimity. Over time, the practice of premeditatio malorum allows you to view embarrassing moments as temporary and inconsequential. You understand that they do not define you, nor do they have the power to derail your sense of self. Instead, they become opportunities to demonstrate your emotional strength and resilience. By practicing premeditatio malorum, you transform embarrassment from a source of anxiety into a manageable and even empowering experience. You approach life with a greater sense of control, knowing that no matter what happens, you have the inner resources to handle it with dignity and grace. In the grand scheme of life, embarrassing moments are fleeting. They come and go, but the impact they have on us depends entirely on how we choose to respond. By applying the principles of Stoicism, emotional control, authenticity, self-forgiveness, and mental preparedness, we can transform these moments from sources of shame into opportunities for growth. Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies not in avoiding uncomfortable situations, but in facing them with courage, wisdom, and resilience. When we learn to embrace embarrassment as a natural part of the human experience, we free ourselves from the fear of judgment and begin to live more authentically. So, the next time you find yourself cringing over an awkward moment, remember the Stoic approach. Pause, reflect, and choose how you want to respond. Use the moment as an opportunity to practice emotional control, to live according to your own values, and to grow stronger in the process. If this message resonates with you, consider sharing it with someone who could benefit from a Stoic perspective on embarrassment. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on Stoicism, personal growth, and mental resilience. Until next time, stay strong, stay Stoic, and remember that you have the power to turn even your most embarrassing moments into strength.